We have multiple New York Knicks updates in regards to this upcoming season, and this has major implications for the team as it will determine a lot for how the Knicks go about their strategy and also much more, while also a New York Knicks legend, an NBA legend, has finally gotten his flowers, and we're going to break all of this down. Lot to talk about. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Knicks Digest. It's Chris here. We're going to jump right into things as always. If you guys are enjoying the content and are part of that 67% that's not subscribed, make sure to subscribe. We got daily videos coming out. You do not want to miss out on all the fun Knicks stuff that we're here to talk about throughout this entire off season with Summer League coming up soon. We have a lot of fun to go over. But let's jump into it. There's a lot to discuss on the Knicks as right now, we're getting a lot of Knicks updates, and we're going to tie them all together right here so you guys can hear about all of it in 8 minutes and then get on with your lives. So, first things first, the coaching search for the associate head coach is still very much going on. The Knicks obviously hired Mike Brown, but they're still looking for an associate head coach for this team, and the first name that ever popped up was James Borrego. Borrego, the former head coach of the Charlotte Hornets, did a very good job offensively, and Mike Brown wanted him as the team's offensive coordinator. Now, the Knicks are known to be looking for an offensive and defensive coordinator for this team right now, so they're going to build out some of the staff. While some staff members are returning, others are not, and the Knicks are going to use those on Brown's offensive and defensive coordinators. Nobody who's coming back right now is going to be the associate head coach of this team. The Knicks are looking on the outside for that. They're not looking internally. They're looking externally, so when it comes down to that, what we're going to see is the Knicks kind of take a position. But James Borrego, it's not going to be him, as it was revealed by Ian Begley that Pelicans associate head coach James Borrego, a Knicks target for a lead spot on Mike Brown's staff, will be staying in New Orleans, according to league sources familiar with the matter. The Knicks interviewed Borrego for their head coaching position and had interest in adding him to Brown's staff, but he's highly valued by the Pelicans and is currently under contract with the Pelicans, so he will not be an option for Mike Brown's staff. So the Knicks now, without Borrego, will have to turn their sights somewhere else. Now, there was fans curious about this, and this fan right here, Captain Pearl NYK, did ask if Ian Begley could clarify if New Orleans didn't allow him to interview / accept the job and offer with us, or was he not interested in the opportunity? Begley said he's not 100% sure, but he would assume it's the former, that the Pelicans did not allow Borrego to interview for a job that's not a promotion. When it comes down to it, the NBA teams will very rarely allow their associate head coaches to leave for a different associate head coach job. They would usually just let them leave, or any coach, they would allow them to leave for a promotion, not a demotion. And even if you're getting offered more money somewhere else, they're probably going to say, nope, you're sticking around, you're not getting promoted, you're just getting more money, and you're staying here. Now, obviously, that can cause some bad blood between organizations, but you also get to keep them. They're not going to not try, because then they won't get another chance. So, Borrego also is someone who, if I had to guess, I would expect that the Pelicans are getting a little bit antsy on Willie Green. That seat is definitely not cold by any means under Willie Green, and if he were to get fired, Borrego would be the favorite to take over for this team, and I think that is part of the reasoning why the Pelicans do want to keep him so badly, on top of the fact that he's their associate head coach, and they just like him because, well, let's face it, James Borrego, good head coach. That's what it comes down to. Now, his record does not show that, as he is 148 and 193 throughout his career when he took over as the interim head coach of the Orlando Magic in the 2014-15 season, before moving out to San Antonio as an assistant for 3 years, learning under Greg Popovich, before moving on to the Charlotte Hornets, where actually Tony Parker came with him for a year, but then retired. And then Borrego stuck around there for a while. The records were not great. However, he did make the play-in game in his final season coaching there, and they actually showed some promise, especially with LaMelo Ball in there running Borrego's offense. However, the Hornets They decide to fire Borrego anyway. Borrego takes some time off, comes back, associate head coach of the Pelicans. The Knicks have interest in him, but they're going to have to stay interested, and they're not going to get him. So they'll have to move on to other candidates, and other candidates definitely will be named throughout this process as well. And as the New York Post put it, with Borrego off the board, names from honor for the Knicks associate head coaching gig include Darvin Ham, Phil Handy, and Jay Triano, according to Stephen Bondi, that is. Brown will get to choose his lead assistant, as Bondi's reported on that Jalen Brunson's dad, Rick Brunson, has accepted a lesser role than he once held under Tom Thibodeau, who was fired last month after the Knicks were eliminated by the Pacers in the Eastern Conference Finals. Assistants Darren Erman, Mo Cheeks, and Mark Bryant are expected to remain on Brown's staff as holdovers from Thibodeau's tenure. Now, these guys were not exactly the Tibbs guys. There was a few of them who were. Erman a little more tighter with Tibbs, but Mo Cheeks and Mark Bryant were brought in externally, and guys who are very well-respected head coaches, so I'm not surprised to see both of them sticking around on Brown's staff. It's going to be interesting to see how all that goes down as well, but they're not going to get that associate head coaching job either. It's not going to be any of them. Mark Bryant's going to stay the big man coach. Mo Cheeks is probably going to stay the more guard-centric coach, while Darren Erman's going to keep doing his thing. Specifically, I believe that's with shooting, if I'm not mistaken. I should have looked that up before I did this video. I apologize, but I'm like 98% sure it is shooting. If I'm wrong, you can let me know in the comments and make fun of me for being an idiot if you feel like it. But we also do have other news in regards to the Knickerbockers of New York. Also, not named after pants, named after Dutch settlers. In case you think our team's named after pants, it's not. Or if you're not a Knicks fan, you think, they're named after pants. We're not. We're named after Dutch settlers who moved to New York. And I don't know if that was a derogatory term. I hope not. Screw it. Let's keep going with the video. The NBA Cup got announced, and the groups are as following. West A, OKC, Minnesota, Sacramento, Phoenix, and Utah is in the top group, so it'll be Thunder versus Timberwolves there in that matter. Then you got the Los Angeles teams in West B with Memphis, Dallas, and the Pelicans. That'll be interesting. That's a fun group. West C, Houston, Denver, Golden State, Portland, San Antonio, fun group. East A, Cleveland, Indiana, Atlanta, Toronto, Washington. Interesting. Cleveland and Atlanta will be fun to watch. Also, Toronto's getting better. East B, Boston, Detroit, Orlando, Brooklyn, Philadelphia. I expect Orlando and Philly to be the best two teams there. And then, who does that leave? That leaves the New York Knicks, Milwaukee Bucks, Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, and Charlotte Hornets, where it will be Knicks and the Bucks primarily, while the Heat are always hanging around, and the Bulls are trying to rebuild, and apparently the Hornets are still in the NBA. So that's interesting. But they shouldn't have fired James Borrego, I guess. But that's not the point. The point is, the Knicks have found their group for the NBA Cup, and they are in good position to get out of that group stage. Now, once that you get out of the group stage, you do get to that group where you get to the semifinals in Vegas, and then you can get to the finals. And last year, I'll be honest, I said that I didn't really care about the NBA Cup, and I didn't until the Knicks lost when they got eliminated in it by Trae Young. Because first of all, Trae Young rolling the dice when it didn't look like he was rolling dice. It looked like he was doing something a little more nefarious, if you will. But on top of that, when it comes down to it, I do want the Knicks to experience some form of winning and also playing in something that is more high stakes than a regular season game. Especially with a new head coach, it'll be interesting to see how this team works together. When it felt like there was a little bit of a lack of teamwork from the Knicks throughout the playoffs, this is the first, more enticing thing. And I do want the Knicks to try, and I believe that Mike Brown is going to try to get them psyched up to win this thing. And I'm interested to see how it goes. We're going to see a little more media coverage on these teams throughout this process, and it'll be the first time that the media is heavily covering the Knicks under a new head coach, and they're going to get scrutinized, they're going to get picked apart, and it's going to be interesting to see what the response is. And also, I think the Knicks are one of the best teams in the NBA. They have the second best odds to win the NBA Finals outside of the Oklahoma City Thunder, so there's an expectation for them to do well in this. There is. Let's be real. It does matter. It's early on in the season. We're going to see what do the Knicks have for us thus far? And that is going to be interesting to watch. And I'm excited to see how that all goes down with the Knicks. Now, when we take a look at what their records were last year against these teams, wrong button, that's James Borrego. When we see it, we see that the Knicks went 9-3 in the 12 games that they played against these teams. They played each of these teams 3 times last season. They went undefeated against the Bucks. They went undefeated against Miami. They went 1-2 against the Bulls and 2-1 against the Hornets. Remember when we got our asses kicked by the Hornets that one time last year? That was a weird game. I kept betting on the Knicks to come back and win, and I just lost money. But also there's the toilet bowl shot game when it was 99-98 Knicks. They were up 99-95, and Jalen Green hit a shot that toilet bowled around for 3 seconds, and the buzzer went off, so they lost. But the Knicks, they should win this grouping. If last year says anything, these teams haven't changed much. Obviously, yeah, Miami's changed. They don't have Jimmy Butler. They have Andrew Wiggins now, but they didn't get much better or worse. It feels like they're kind of stagnant still. The Bulls have gotten worse, so the Knicks shouldn't be dropping as many games to them. The Hornets are still terrible and hardly existent, so the Knicks should be able to clear them in all the games they play against them. And the Bucks, it feels like they moved laterally more than anything else. Obviously, with having no Damian Lillard at that point and now having Miles Turner, it does make them better in the instant future. But at the end of the day, we're going to see how it goes. The Knicks should be able to win this thing, and I do want to see the Knicks win so they can get a taste of winning and understand what it's like to hold up a trophy on a stage, because it's going to make them all hungrier for that NBA Finals. And I do think that's important. And guys, something else that some people are going to find important and some are not is that none other than New York Knicks legend and NBA legend, one of the greatest isolation scorers of all time, and if you're my age, the man you grew up watching in the orange and blue. Carmelo Anthony is the first ever New York Knick to ever be the cover of NBA 2K, as he is the cover of the Superstar Edition for NBA 2K26. The New York-born Carmelo Anthony spent 7 years with the Knicks and was one of the most iconic players of the 2000s and 2010s. Melo is 11th all-time in points scored. I believe 11th now. He might be 10th. He hit the top 10 at one point, and he would have had well more if he did not get blackballed from the NBA 2 different times, because apparently it's his fault. The Houston Rockets sucked, and then the NBA kept him out for that whole year for absolutely no reason whatsoever, and throughout the entire offseason as well. Then after the Lakers, when he put up a great year shooting over 40% from three, apparently he wasn't good enough for that Lakers team that, missed the playoffs. Apparently it was Melo's fault or something, and they signed Troy Brown instead of him because they're a dumb franchise that only won anything because LeBron James went there because he likes LA. But where we stand right now, it's great to see Carmelo Anthony getting recognized. It's one of those things where you don't get your flowers until you're gone. Since Carmelo retired, the man has become such a legend. Everyone's like, oh, Melo was the man. Like, they weren't the same damn people hating on Carmelo Anthony back in the day. But Melo deserves this. I'm so happy for him. I will totally be buying this cover. I'm so happy for Carmelo Anthony. The man was great in New York. Now, Melo spent 7 seasons with the Knicks, really 6.5, but 7 seasons with the Knicks. And he averaged 24.7 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists in those 412 games that he played. Melo battled injuries and really, really awful front office management that only got him to the second round once, where he lost in the first round twice. And outside of that, he did not make the playoffs. But it wasn't Melo's fault. As Melo said, when he's like, when we win, it's the Knicks won, but when the Knicks lose, it's Carmelo lost. And he's right. I mean, Melo didn't miss the playoffs until he came to the Knicks, and they started botching everything, and Phil Jackson was absolutely an imbecile. But throughout that time, Melo shot 44% from the field and 37% from three. Should be one of the best scorers on the planet, and also now holds the Knicks and MSG record for most points scored in a single game with 62. A record that with the more possessions will evidently be broken one day, but there's no denying that there's 2 things that we have to say about Carmelo Anthony. 1, he deserves this. It's great as a Knicks fan to see him getting his flowers. And 2, I know people are going to argue this, but 7 years of 20-plus point per game scoring, and the only thing to look forward to during Knicks games for 5 straight years. No one should ever wear number 7 again. And the fact that nobody has ever worn number 7 again with the New York Knicks does show me one thing. Now that he's officially an NBA Hall of Famer, I do expect the Knicks to retire Carmelo Anthony's number next season, and I will not miss that game. I will be in the stands. I will cheer for Melo when he gets that done. I will be in my Melo jersey. He's my favorite NBA player of all time. Always has been, always will be. I became a Knicks fan because Melo got traded there. I rooted for the Knicks, don't get me wrong. I liked David Lee and Al Harrington. Like, I was aware of their existence. I knew who Eddie Curry was, and obviously, like, Nate Robinson and stuff. But, dude, that was 2011. I was 10 when Melo got traded to the Knicks. I was 9 when Melo got traded to the Knicks. But I knew who he was because I just did. He was Carmelo Anthony. How do you not know who he was? And, frankly, the fact that he got traded there made me start watching Knicks games. I never looked back. He's the reason why I'm a basketball fan. He's the reason why I'm here. And he's the reason why I get to work my dream job, which is talk about sports on YouTube. So, shout out to Carmelo Anthony. One of the greatest of all time. One of the most disrespected players in NBA history. And one of the most underrated players in the history of basketball. Retire the number. Buy the 2K24 Superstar Edition. Have a great day. Like, subscribe, turn on post notifications. Go Knicks.